In part one, I took off the roof and sorted out the floor. Today, it's time to put up the new timber work and the galvanised sheeting. So I've enlisted the help of my friend, Keith Brown. What do we say?
Roll the intro.
Thank you so much for coming and help me today, Keith. I very rarely get any help.
For goodness sake.
It's nice for someone to share the work. You okay there?
Yeah.
Good. Chop chop. Although as a DIYer, you could try to do this job by using just ladders. It's a lot easier and safer using roll-along access towers. And as Keith and I are officially at work, the HSE Working at Height Regulations 2005 essentially tells us that we can only use ladders if more suitable equipment cannot be used, which isn't the case. So to make things quicker and safer, I've hired 2 towers for this project. So now we've got some scaffolding up, I can explain the plan. And the plan is to install 4 timbers simply supported from left to right to hold up the corrugated sheeting in a similar way to the existing that I've just demolished. The only difference is my timbers are a lot bigger. The existing was 4x2, I'm putting in 6x2 treated. And rather than just 1 in the middle here, I'm going to put in 3. So obviously what they put in before failed and just wasn't beefy enough. So I've just increased everything, the number of timbers and the sizes as well. Now they're going to sit on this right hand side on this existing timber that's supporting the roof to the next shed as well. The only problem is these timbers are 125 and what I've got is 140. So this is why I've just opened this up to create a big enough space and hopefully I can slide them in there. On the other side, we're going to firstly install a header timber that the other timbers can sit on at the same level and the same angle as this one. And if that's the case, then the whole thing should be in the same plane. We first use the laser level to put a datum in each corner. With this, we can transfer the level of the existing bearer on the right to the columns on the left, so the new bearing timber goes in at exactly the same level and slope. 1775. These are 6 metre long treated 6x2s which plane down to around about 140 by 45 millimetres, which aren't that easy to get. Most DIY shops will only stock up to 4.8 metres, so you really need to be looking at builders merchants or timber yards if you need timbers of this length. This is where having access towers and another pair of hands is really needed. Although I can just about lift and carry one of these timbers, getting it in place at height would be near impossible for one person. Lovely, lovely. After trimming the end to match the angle of the existing, we drill pilot holes and use 10mm by 100mm long coach bolts, which gives a really good fixing in timber of this size. So you use a ratchet, I'll just use the adjustable spanner, okay? So our cross timbers are going to be sitting on this existing timber, and I'd like your thoughts on this, obviously, splice here, because we're going to be putting weight on here and we've got a splice. What do you reckon on that splice then?
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a bodge.
Are you saying that looks like a DIY job?
I would never say that.
You better not, you're in the wrong company.
Not a scarf joint.
Not a scarf joint, and it's nailed as well, which I don't think is very clever. So what I thought was our next timber is going about here. We could put another timber, a vertical timber, bearing on this blockwork, which is fairly solid, going to the underside of that.
Good idea.
Just to help give it a bit of support.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Okay, the only problem with that, with this mesh in the way, which I don't really want to take out the way, the only challenge is you've got to access it from the other side. Well volunteered.
For goodness sake. just pop my head in for half an hour.
You right, Keith?
Yep, fine.
You okay? What took you so long?
Can we just get on with the work? Yeah, if we cut the angle first, I guess.
Try that. Where do you want me to cut? On the line or make it long or what?
If you cut it on that tick mark, it's definitely going to be too long, but
Okay.
we'll see how it goes. Literally like 10 mil, that should slot in nicely.
Right. I've got a persuader.
I think we're going to need more than a persuader
A
here.
bit too much to persuade it.
Yeah. If you could take off another
Yep.
3 mil.
Yep. Sure it's not 2.5?
Yeah, I think we're good here.
Nice one. Perfect.
How are we looking for level?
Lovely job.
Next time, you can give it a go.
To me, to you, to me, to you. Do you know the Chuckle Brothers, do you? I thought you'd be too young for the Chuckle Brothers.
No way. I watched a lot.
With the support timber in on the left, it's just a matter of cutting to length and placing the cross members at regular quarter points from back to front, measured from the furthest existing support, which, although it's only a 4x2, it has a central support, so essentially half the span. To stop the 6x2s falling over before the roofing goes on, Keith fixes a right angle wedge on the load side just to hold it in place. You sure that's in?
These scaffolding towers are brilliant. I'm going to have to hire some of these sometime.
With 2 spans in, it was definitely time for lunch. Sandwich, Vicar? I see gold's gone up. So, with all the learning curves complete and a good break, it's time to get this timber work finished.
I can do so much better. Dreams about you and me, wearing hats at my sleeves. I can do so much better. So much better. So much better. Dreams are all that I need. I finally see I can do so much better. I can do so much
Another coffee, yeah? You okay?
Yeah.
So that's the timber work finished. Thank you very much, Keith, for coming and helping me.
Pleasure.
And obviously you can see Keith at Rag and Bone Brown. You'll all already know all about Keith anyway. Now I just have to get on and do some of this galvanised sheeting. Have a good trip back to Norfolk, Keith.
Thank you. See you soon.
So I'm just doing some checks on this timber before I put any of the sheeting up, and as I was walking in, that front timber just seemed to be non-parallel to the next one. If I lift the camera up, maybe you'll see what I mean. So I've just got up there and taken a load of measurements, and I think I've worked out what's wrong. The front timber here that I told Keith to put on the front of this post going up is actually way off. For it to be parallel to the rest of the outbuildings and the rest of the timber, it needs to be now behind that post, because it's just kicked out. And obviously the further to the left it goes, the higher it goes, because this timber it's sitting on is angled up, so it's not only out of kilt with the front of all the other outbuildings, it's also now too high. So I think if I can undo one of the bolts at the other end, take these two bolts off, and then all I'll have to do is hop it up over to the other side, then I can bolt it on this side, and then really should be okay. That is a lot more where it should be. What the heck is that? When did he put that on? I can't believe he put his maker's mark on my roof. Now that is nice and firm. That, I think I'm going to have to go and get some sandpaper. So one of my challenges here is that I'm tying in to the existing, and that may sound a little bit strange, but I'll explain to you why. Have a look at this. My new corrugated sheeting obviously has to overlap the old, but if you can see, look, it's all over the place and it's bent and what have you. So that's not going to start this corrugated sheeting off particularly nice. I think I'll just have to make the best I can. Also, if this was a brand new roof, what I'd be doing is a big 3-4-5 triangle to make sure that this is completely perpendicular to the timbers I've just put in. But to be honest with you, I can't do that because I've got to follow this corrugated sheeting. I can't put it at 10 degrees off, else it's just not going to fit together. So I have to follow this, even if it's not right, but it may be right. And really, once that first sheet is in, then the rest will just go where they go. Here I'm using 55mm long self-drilling screws that have got a rubber gasket designed for roofing sheets like this and work quite well. It's important that they're not over tightened, as the corrugations on the roofing can easily get squashed, but they also need to be tightened enough so that the gasket can make things watertight. This is a really good example of where using a drill with a clutch that's dialed in properly, that stops at the right point, is far better and quicker than using an impact driver. In theory, you only need 3 fixings per sheet at each location, but with 8 corrugations, that means at some point the fixings won't be spaced evenly. So I went for every other corrugation, so that's 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9, which is also lapped underneath the next sheet, being number 1 of the next sheet, if you see what I mean. That means that essentially you see a fixing on every other corrugation, which to me just looks a lot more right. So there you go, the job is complete, just except one piece of timber that I've just noticed that I should have trimmed off when I had the scaffolding. And I think it's looking pretty good. I think it's a lot stronger than what I had there before, and these sheets should last at least a few years. And I've been in here recently when it's been raining and it's been dry as a bone, so that's really what counts. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's okay, I've got it tied on. Big thank you to Keith, which I just wouldn't have been able to do it without him. If you don't watch Keith's channel, Go and have a look at him. I'll put the link in the description below. I reckon one of the best UK woodworking channels, and I've been watching him for some time. So until next time, I'll see you then. Uh-oh.